I cannot afford it. A restaurant server sparks fierce debate after revealing she had to pay a customer's tab after a dine and dash. So, who do you think should have been stuck with the bill? And by the way, if you're not familiar what a dine and dash is, it's literally what it sounds like. Someone, basically a customer, goes into a restaurant, sits down, orders food, eats all the food, the drinks, whatever, maybe says that they gotta go to the bathroom or something, and then they just bail. Meaning the server that spent their time serving them doesn't get any money. The restaurant doesn't get any money. They just burned through that money in terms of like supplies and labor cost. The chef got taken advantage of as well. Like everyone got taken advantage of. Now I find this interesting that she was forced to apparently pay for the person that did this bill. Like I've personally never heard of a server having to do this, right? Which if you stumble upon this, feel free to let me know because like I've just never heard of a situation like this. So a server sparked furious outrage after she revealed she was forced to pay a customer's bill after they dined in Dash because their card was declined. Audrey 22 from Dallas explained that the burden of the check fell on her when the table she was waiting on couldn't cover the amount and left the restaurant. Which to me, it's pretty crazy. Now, one time I had like a personal experience where I went into a restaurant with a family member. In the restaurant only took cash, just cash. Meaning you couldn't use a credit card, you couldn't use a debit card, you couldn't even pay with a check. It had to be cash, straight up cash. And they didn't even tell anyone that that was the case. So we literally sit down, order the food, eat it. We're not thinking anything like it. It's not that bad of like a price. It's like only like a $10 or $12 burger slash like side thing. Was good, great food. And then like we asked like, okay, so like where do we pay? And then they basically say, oh, it's like this. Oh, like we don't take cards, right? It's like, what do you mean you don't take cards? Oh, like we only do cash. So they were like, okay, is there an ATM nearby? And they were basically like, oh yeah, there's an ATM at the grocery store, like 10 minutes away. So one of us had to stay basically as collateral, as physical collateral, while the other one went to the ATM, got money out, came back to the restaurant to pay for the food because we didn't have enough cash on us. Like to me, that's just crazy, right? But again, I still don't understand why the server is forced to pay for this. Which, by the way, if you are working at a restaurant and due to no fault on yours, these customers bail out, they dine and dash, you should leave that restaurant if they try to make you pay for the bill. Like, that is beyond crazy to me. Let's see. So the server caused a massive debate between social media users to ensue just 2 months after another woman brought tipping etiquette to the forefront of the conversation. So, in a viral video which has amassed over 721,000 views, which, by the way, this is kind of crazy because, like, this is probably on, yeah, TikTok and whatnot. Like, 721,000 views in, like, a long form type of video, let's just say for, like, YouTube, could potentially be anywhere from, like, 2 grand all the way up to like 100 grand depending on the content. And because this kind of deals with like money, it could potentially be more. Now she does curse a lot, but it's kind of interesting how these different platforms end up paying stuff. So while many TikTok viewers felt bad for the waitress and pushed her to sue the establishment she works for, Others slammed Audrey for not knowing the labor laws and handling the check without question. Interesting. So, a big FU to the people who walked $300 worth of food and alcohol, and the card declined, and I had to pay part of their bill since I was your server. Not only did I lose a $55 tip, I lost $70 of my own money because of y'all. Treat your servers better and don't order S you can't afford. And now this is also another thing too. I remember going to an IHOP where there was this family that purposely only ate like 40% of the plate, and they ordered like 10 different like plates. And then they basically complained to the server, the manager, all that sort of stuff to basically try to get out of paying for basically like almost like a $200 bill in IHOP, which is a crazy amount of food, which is like a really disgusting thing to do. There's just sometimes you see something and you're like, wow, are you guys just that much of a scumbag? You know? Let's see. This person says, girl, that's on you. That's illegal. They played TF out of you. Interesting. So meanwhile, other servers came to Audrey's defense, noting that they too had been left with other choice but to hand no other choice but to hand over their wallet in these instances. Which again, I don't understand how that is even necessarily illegal. And why would it fall onto the server? That's just something I don't understand. So leaving social media users in a frenzy over how establishments should handle pesky dine-in dashers. So the clip quickly garnered popularity amongst TikTok viewers as many of them pushed the 22-year-old to file a lawsuit, prompting some users on the video sharing platform to claim she wasn't too bright for paying. However, many fellow servers took to the comments to reveal they had also been forced to pick up the check when a customer had dined and dashed. In a follow-up video, the 22-year-old explained that she had just moved to a new state and didn't know the labor laws. She added that she liked her job, coworkers, and doesn't have the luxury of quitting her job because of this incident. I cannot afford to just quit my job and not have another one lined up. I mean, I agree with that, but at the same time, you are basically being disrespected by your establishment and pretty much taken advantage of by your establishment. I literally cannot afford to do that right now, she explained. Interesting. So Audrey assured her followers that she planned to discuss this shocking occurrence with her manager. Many social media users came to Audrey's defense and claimed that forcing servers to pay a customer's bill is against the law. And according to Slate, the situation isn't as clear cut as it seems. Luke O'Neill wrote, on a federal level, this type of wage deduction isn't roundly prohibited by the Fair Labor Standards Act, the law that establishes minimum wage and other employment standards. The FLSA generally prevents employers from taking servers' tips, and it prohibits wage deductions for walkouts when an employer claims the maximum tip credit or when such deductions bring a worker's net earnings below minimum wage. This means that if an employer is paying below the federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour, reductions are only illegal if they bring a worker's hourly wage below $7.25. That's pretty messed up. So basically, from what I'm understanding from this, apparently it's legal for her job to do this because by taking this amount of money from her, it doesn't bring her below the 7.25 hour rate wage. And that's the only reason why they legally could do this. That's pretty messed up. Let's see. So, however, many states have laws in effect to prevent employers from deducing a server's wage due to a customer's refusal to pay. These states include Massachusetts, New York, and California. Social media users still outraged by the occurrence offer their support and advice to the 22-year-old. One user said, OMG, I'm so sorry, this should be illegal, it wasn't your fault. Another added, depending on the state you live in, you can sue the restaurant for that. This one says, you got this girl, you got the best mindset, be nice but firm, commented one user. And here's the thing, my viewpoint on this is like, if you are running an establishment, specifically a restaurant, when you know that there's going to be people dining and dashing at some point, you would think that you would have some money in like an account just to offset that, right? That you would already, okay, there's probably like 1 to 2% of people that come in every month that might dine and dash. Let's create a budget that, like, okay, we can cover this cost because we know it's going to happen to a certain extent. Like, putting this on the server's responsibility, financially speaking, is beyond crazy to me. Now, it'd be a little bit different in another situation. So, for example, let's say that you had a hair salon and you were renting out a chair, right? And one of that person's customers that they brought in did not pay the full amount. Well, it wouldn't really be on the business because the business is simply renting out the chair. So that hairstylist that is renting out the chair is solely responsible for what that customer basically does because they brought in that business that didn't even pay. But that doesn't even have any effect, in a sense, towards the overall hair salon because they don't really care about whether or not the customer pays or not because the hair salon or the hairstylist is the one that's actually basically got like a side business within the hair salon. So it's like a different situation, but it's like that's really the only time where the business just doesn't really put it on themselves in terms of like responsibility. Let's see. Let's see. Other servers took to the comment section to let her know she wasn't alone in her experience. This has happened to me. They will do it again. Please look out for yourself, commented one user. That's depressing. Like, if this happens pretty often at the restaurant that you're working at, maybe you should find a different restaurant. Another person wrote, same thing happened to a server at a place I bussed at. $250 or something, and they walked. The owner tried to get him to pay, and he walked. This just happened to me last night. $280 tab, dot, 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 dot. Then she came back, tried to order more. I said no. She called me lazy, and I went in on her, commented one user. Hey, good for you. No comments on this. I mean, if I were to give your thoughts if you stumble upon this, like, there's just so many things that I'm like annoyed by this whole situation, right? One, this should not be the server's responsibility. Two, the business owner sucks at their business if they haven't even like accounted for this a cost potentially happening on a monthly basis because this will happen again, right? And it's pretty messed up. Like, okay, like another way to put it, let's say that this server invited these specific customers to come into the restaurant, right? Like they specifically brought these customers into the restaurant, right? And they talked, you know, they talked them up to the owner or like the manager of the place or whatever, like, oh, these people are going to be big spenders. They're going to like buy a lot of food, etc., etc., etc. Then in that case, maybe it could be on the server's responsibility because they specifically brought these customers in and they dined and dashed. I can understand that in that specific situation, but other than that, there's no reason why a server should have to pay for this sort of stuff. The business owner should have a fund that they set aside, kind of like taxes. Yeah, this is just like the cost of doing business at scale, right? Like people are just gonna like screw you, you know? Pretty horrible. But another thing to really understand too This server is not really managing their money right in any context if they can't afford a $280 bill, right? Well, actually, no. How much was that? I think like 250, 300. What was the bill that she had to pay? Yeah, $300 bill, right? Like, if you can't afford to spend $300, you got a lot bigger issues that you're dealing with, to be frank.